Hi guys, welcome to the channel of love. Okay, this is our study group. It's like our personal development study group. We're studying You'll See It When You Believe It, Dr. Wayne W. Dyer, The Way to Your Personal Transformation. This is the first chapter. As the previous video was the introduction, which I do suggest that you listen to, as it gives you a bit of an insight on Wayne's story. Okay, but we are on chapter 1. Transformation. Transformation is the ability and willingness to live beyond your form. Okay, chapter 1, transformation. Ooh, itching. Okay, I'm hoping to read all this chapter. It's quite a long one, so we'll see how we go. I feel as if I have gone through a gate which will not allow me to go back to the place where I used to live. To me, going through the gate symbolises transformation. But what do I mean by that? Start with the word form, the centre of transformation. It is a term that describes the physical you. It includes all of the physiological, sorry, we've got Tia. Transformed. Okay. Start with the word form, the centre of transformation. It is a term that describes the physical you. It includes all of the physiological properties that you have come to associate with the human being that is you. Form includes the total weight of your bones, arteries, blood vessels, skin, eyeballs, toenails, heart, lungs, kidneys, and anything else that you can name in your physiology. Yet certainly you are much more than a pile of bones, skin, and component parts. Everything that you see in that pile of form, you will also find in a pig or a horse. The real you, the unique you, is 99% invisible, untouchable, unsmellable, and impervious to the physical senses, which know only form. The largest chunk of who you really are is something beyond form. It has been called your mind, or your feelings, or your thoughts, or your higher consciousness, or whatever it is. It certainly is not form. All of your thoughts and your spiritual awareness are in this other formless dimension. Now consider the prefix trans, which means beyond, above, or in literal terms, over. When we place that prefix in front of form, we get transform. Now add the suffix ation. We now add the suffix ation, which means action or result, and we have the word transformation. To me, this word means the result or action of going beyond one's form, and it is literally the challenge of this book, to help you to see yourself as someone much more advanced and divine than a mere form. Your form must follow the rules of form. It will change many times during your lifetime. In fact, every single cell of your entire form will change every 7 years or so, and yet you will still exist. You are already a tiny little baby body, a pre-adolescent, a teenager body, and depending on the current age of your form, in other bodies as well. The form has completely changed many times, and yet the real you has remained constant. Once you understand this concept, you will be on your way to going through the gate. Every man-made creation starts with a thought, an idea, a vision, a mental image. The thought is then applied in some way to form a new product. At this moment, I am taking my thoughts, applying them to a typewriter, and creating a new product called a book. We all go through this process thousands of times every day. The ultimate in becoming a transformed person is seeing ourselves as unlimited by our form. When you live exclusively in form, you live in a world of limitations. Think about all of the limits that are placed on your form. Limits are boundaries that dictate things. You can only lift so much weight. You can only run so fast. You can only work so hard, but limits are all in the dimension of form. Now consider the part of you without physical limits, the dimension of thought. There are no limits to your ability to think. You can imagine yourself doing anything. You can have a perfect relationship with your mate in pure thought. You can be anything, go anywhere, experience all that you want in this dimension of thought, exclusive of form. I am suggesting that you can experience a major portion of your life in this dimension of transcending your form, that is, in transformation. At the same time, you will be able to maintain your form and honour its requirements and lovingly understand its signals while still knowing it is serving you, the real you. The emphasis in our culture is on the value of the external, the physical appearance. I am suggesting that the emphasis be shifted to a certain I am suggesting that the emphasis be shifted to a concern for the formless self, being ever mindful that the form houses the real you. With enough practice in this dimension, you will eliminate virtually all limitations in your life. You will get past your form and do as Paul suggests in Romans 12:2. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. This is a place of transformation. This is a place where you can not only live a miracle, but create miracles as well. You can make higher and higher levels of living a regular part of your daily regimen without going to a guru or mastering courses in metaphysics. How? By believing you are a soul with a body, rather than a body with a soul. You will create for yourself a life that is literally without limitations. You will begin to see miracles occurring simply because you believe in them and expect them to materialise for you. In fact, you will become a miracle worker yourself. You will begin to see the phenomenal miracle that you are when it comes to healing your own body. You will begin to change self-defeating habits such as overeating and avoiding exercise without having to set goals or work at self-discipline. Your new habits will automatically follow your new sense of appreciation for all that you are, even though you cannot define it in physical terminology. Your belief in your body's ability to heal itself will begin to reflect how you take care of the precious temple that houses you. Fear of death will dissolve as you come closer to an awareness that thought, thinking, your essential self, never dies. Thought cannot die. It is the energy that composes the very essence of the universe, and once you believe this within your being, you will never need to fear death again. A beautiful woman by the name of Peace Pilgrim walked across this country a few years back, spreading her message of peace and love and personal transformation. She described the characteristics of personal transformation in this short list. Some signs and symptoms of inner peace. A tendency to think and act spontaneously rather than on fears based on past experiences. An unmistakable ability to enjoy each moment. A loss of interest in judging other people. A loss of interest in interpreting the actions of others. A loss of interest in conflict. A loss of the ability to worry. Frequent, overwhelming episodes of appreciation. Contented feelings of connectedness with others and nature. Frequent attacks of smiling. An increased susceptibility to the love extended by others, as well as the uncontrollable urge to extend it. This is what is in it for you. Life will become a fascinating journey filled with joy and awe. The part of you that resided for so long in the limitations that you imposed on yourself by living exclusively in form will become free to see a whole new panorama if and when you believe it. You will find yourself slowing down and living in that quiet inner space where you can appreciate what comes your way. You will know in your heart that you need not be threatened by the views or actions of anyone else. You will receive more joy and ease in your life because that is what you will be sending out. You will find it easier to accept contrary views, knowing that you are not defined by anything or anyone external to yourself. You will find great joy in the ease that replaces rancour and pain. You will eliminate conflict and confrontation as you find it unnecessary to prove yourself to anyone. In effect, you will begin to tap the enormous power of your mind. You will peacefully meditate, though others about you may be in a frenzy. You will be the power of a quiet mind, and you will choose to go there often. You will discover things about yourself that you perhaps never considered before. You will be in that perfect intelligence that is within all form, in that miraculous inner space where everything that you can visualize is possible. I have come to know that there is an invisible, untouchable, odorless, and yet very real intelligence in back of, or supporting, all form. This intelligence has been labelled many things. Some call it God, others the life force, higher consciousness, the divine spirit. The label is unimportant. The living of it matters immensely. It is a feeling similar to what Carl Jung was expressing when an interviewer asked him if he believed in God. His startling answer was no. After a thoughtful pause, he continued, I know there is a God. Observe a tree and contemplate the intelligence within or behind that tree that allows it to function perfectly in form. The leaves come and go, the sap drips out. It flowers when it is supposed to. It is much more than simple form. It contains a life force that makes it alive. We cannot see that life force, but it is very real. I look at the skin on the back of my hand quite often these days. When I pinch it, it no longer snaps back as it once did. It sort of meanders back to its original position. There are wrinkles about my eyes that were never there. I have taken to growing ear hairs and losing head hairs. I see my form changing all the time. If I thought that was all that I am, I would feel distressed over my physical changes. But I know that I am much more than this form that I occupy. I know that I am a soul with a body rather than a body with a soul. This thing that some call a soul, and I call my being or myself, is the very essence of what we are. It is the intelligence behind the form, and the biggest difference between me today and me several years ago is that I now love the fact that I am not exclusively my form. Buckminster Fuller once said that 99% of who you are is invisible and untouchable. It is your ability to think and go beyond your form that determines the quality of your life. Being able to express and experience the statement, I am my ability to think and feel, I am not only form, is the major transformational difference in my life today. I see myself having chosen a variety of roles in this lifetime. I used to believe that those roles were the real me, and that everything that I did determined my essence. I experienced my form doing what I have chosen to do, and at the same time I can mentally, in back of that form, and observe myself going through and doing motions of my humanity. Thus I work and sweat and play tennis and write and speak to large audiences and make love to my wife and walk along the beach and pay my bills and strive to save some money and talk on the telephone about my investments and hug my children and do all of the other actions that I choose for myself. Those actions, those roles, have a magical, enhanced quality to them when my being is in the doing. When I involve that invisible, untouchable part of myself, or myself, then do I recognise that my physical self, my form, is not all that I am. When I bring my thoughts and feelings to my physical actions, I experience a balance, a wholeness, a me-ness. My ability to be, thought itself, is the real miracle that I am part of. No one can get behind my eyeballs and experience my inner reality, and likewise, I cannot enter anyone else's form and become the process that is that person's. But I can and do allow myself to become my mind rather than my form. I now live each day as if that intelligence that is in all living things, including myself, is the real essence of life. I no longer fear death, since I know that we are never formed, but are always in a state of transition, and that though form may ultimately look as if it has died, you simply cannot kill thought. The major difference that I note in myself is the phenomenal new compassion that seems to have swept into my being in recent years. When I previously was able to ignore others or to live in my own world, so to speak, now I find myself more emotionally connected to the inner energy of all life forms. For instance, I do a lot of travelling for speaking engagements, and in the past I have proceeded single-mindedly through a crowded aeroplane to get to my seat. I now find myself helping someone stow hand luggage in the overhead compartment when I would have squeezed by that person a few years back. I love this new compassion. It empowers me to greater things, and of course, it helps to create a more loving experience in others as well. I also have found that I am developing a new to me style of intelligence without a conscious effort. I find that I have a sensitivity to and understanding of concepts that at one time seemed fuzzy or bizarre. I enjoy reading about quantum reality, relativity, metaphysics, and all measure of Eastern thought. Find it fascinating, where I previously found it unfathomable and even dull. In bookstores, I find myself in the sections of philosophy, the New Age, metaphysics, and the like, regretting that I do not have the time to read everything that is out there. I have a new sensation with these subjects, but more significant, they seem to fit into my personal readiness level now. I have become more open-minded about everything in the universe. My vision allows me to explore without the judgment that previously clouded it. Even more intriguing is that it now makes perfect sense to me. I understand what was previously muddled. This is quite an extraordinary awakening experience for me, and I am, quite frankly, in awe of it. I often find myself reading books or listening to tapes that blow me away with internal excitement. I'm not sure if it is in my openness to these new ideas or if I have simply developed a greater intelligence through my studies, but in any case, I love it, and even more, I love sharing it with you and others. It is as if, in one swift instant, I have begun to understand and live the teachings of spiritual masters. Not by prolonged study programs, not by trying to improve my spiritual consciousness, simply by changing to a new me that is filled with wonder at the miraculousness of it all. I also have a decreased sense of attachment to acquisitions and possessions. I no longer identify myself with my accomplishments and my resume. It is as if now that I am a me without boundaries, I have less rigidity about defining myself. I feel as if I can stand in back of myself, of my form, and allow myself to be anything I want to be without having to define myself by my deeds. I am defined by some internal knowingness or beingness that defies external descriptors. It no longer matters as much what I accomplish as that I am in tune with my own sense of belonging to the human race. Self-labels are no longer necessary. It is not that the deeds have ceased, but that they are expressed in the process of my own self-definition. The less importance I have attached to these externals, the fewer restrictions I find in my life. I feel capable of anything at all, as long as I follow the inner voice which only I can hear. I sense a strong shift in my personal ethics. Anyone in my life who attempts to be controlling or judgmental will not engage my emotional energy. I have lost my need to prove myself or justify my beliefs. I have no attachment to convincing anyone of the rightness of my position or to be on a confrontational receiving end of their viewpoint. A peaceful sense of who I am radiates and intermingles with respect for otherness. I have found that some of my personal relationships have grown deeper and more profound, particularly with my wife and immediate family, while others have become less important. I still enjoy myself immensely in the company of others at a social gathering, but I no longer define myself as needing to be part of these activities, whereas they played a much larger role in earlier years. I prefer spending time alone or in the rich, close personal relationships I enjoy with my family and a few associates. Virtually all dependency relationships, except for those with my small children, are non-existent in my life. I am uninterested in having others dependent on me for their emotional or any other kind of sustenance. Paradoxically, I have become more generous in giving myself to others. I enjoy more than anything else in my life helping others. It is both strange and wonderful to function exclusively on what I know to be my truth, and at the same time to welcome without judgment those who are operating at a different frequency. Similarly, I find it easier to radiate at my own frequency and to ignore the pleadings of others to live my life their way. What has happened is that the boundary between myself and others has dissolved. I see others on their own paths, and I can now love them for being precisely where they are. When others attempt to impose their self-serving values and attitudes on me, as I once did on others, I know that this can alter my balance and harmony. But now I simply shift into being a peaceful observer of what they are expressing about themselves and their truth. The authentic me, the thoughts and inner feelings that I live, are no longer engaged in defence, and I can watch without a need to prove them wrong. My path remains crystal clear. This is a new kind of vision that allows me to live in formlessness and form at the same time, without being threatened or controlled by anyone. It is a gloriously peaceful place. I have lost my ability to blame others for the circumstances of my life. I no longer view the world in terms of unfortunate accidents or misfortunes. I know in my being that I influence it all, and now find myself considering why I created a situation rather than saying, why me? This heightened awareness directs me to look inside of myself for answers. I take responsibility for all of it, and the interesting puzzle becoming a fascinating challenge when I decide to influence areas of my life in which I previously believed I was not in control. I now feel that I control it all. I know that I create what I have and what I need, and that I am capable of performing miracles when I am balanced inwardly and using my thinking dimension to create the world that I want for myself. I know now that my circumstances do not make me what I am, but that they reveal who I have chosen to be. The quieter I can make my mind, the more I can perceive the link between my thoughts and how I feel. The quieter my mind, the less judgmental and negative I tend to be. Having a quiet mind gives me a peaceful life and helps others around me to choose peaceful, serene, effective lives for themselves. Consequently, how I think can directly affect those around me. It was said of Jesus and Buddha and other highly spiritual beings that their presence in a village could raise the consciousness of everyone in the village. I can now value and appreciate that idea. I have found that when I am totally at peace within and radiate that serenity outward, the consciousness of those in the same room with me can become peaceful. Recently, I gave a speech to a large audience in Chicago, and in the room were some 500 children, many of them toddlers and infants. The noise level was quite high, but after a while I became accustomed to it, and it was not bothersome. At one particular poignant moment in the speech, as I was about to recite a gentle poem that is very meaningful to me, the entire room, including the infants and toddlers, became silent. A kind of magic communication was transmitted to everyone through the dimension of thought. The changes in myself and my life patterns have all happened without goals or any life plan. Yet these inner changes are as much a part of me as are my lungs and my heart. Similarly, there have been many changes in my physical world of being in the world. I run a minimum of 8 miles daily and have not missed a day since I began at the age of 36. Not once. I tell people that running is not something that I do, it is something that I am. It is a part of my being. It fits as regularly into my health regimen as does being scrupulous about dental care. Simply what I am as a healthy human being. My old me was well aware of the benefits of my form. Those benefits remain and continue while I now experience a new level of benefits involving my inner self. Sorry, I lost the flow big time. It's all these words, they keep throwing me. Okay, it's that bloody simile. I can't say it. Oh, practice. Let's have a drink. It's a long chapter, guys. Let's just take a breather. It's quite a long chapter. Let's keep going, it's very interesting. My old me was well aware of the benefits to my form. Those benefits remain and continue while I now experience a new level of benefit involving my inner self. A loss of myself, an unawareness of my physicality as I run. I now have higher levels of energy than I ever experienced, and I attribute it and my involvement in being healthy and fit to my higher consciousness approach to life. I find it interesting that I eat no red meat, which I once thrived on, that I eat my food without adding salt, where I used to use the salt shaker before I even tasted my food, that sugar, caffeine, and other neutrally empty foods are seldom part of my diet. I find all that interesting, but what is astonishing to me is that this tendency towards wholesome eating habits has flowed from a more loving approach to myself and to all of life, not from a desire to enhance my physical attractiveness or strength or to achieve physical longevity. I seem to be trusting some sort of inner perfect consultant rather than relying on cultural norms, old habits, or what I was taught as I grew up. The part of me that wants to be in balance, is choosing my food intake. I feel balanced inside, and somehow this almost magically translates to a salubrious approach to nutrition and exercise. I seldom wear a watch, yet a few years ago I would not be caught without one. Time has lost its importance in the linear sense, and I do not feel compelled to keep track of when and where and how fast I live my life. This happens without any goals or objectives. I simply stop wearing a watch and referring to time and scheduling my life, and I have found that I am more effective as a result. I am intrigued with the paradox of letting go of a need for desire. Let's just reread that part. I am intrigued with the paradox of letting go of a need or desire for time limits and feeling I have discovered unlimited time for things I want to do. More than that, even. Without physical time constraints, my life not only flows more effectively, but has increased richness and texture. I experience the paradox of letting go of time limits quite often in places like checkout lines in stores. I am sure you too know the feelings that the old me had when someone ahead of me in line was taking too long to complete a transaction. I was impatient, agitated, critical. I even crowded closer to try to prod the slow person on. The new me does not feel trapped in time and therefore does not need to worry about getting out of the store in a prescribed number of minutes. Instead, I often experience a new level of being with time. I discover myself in thought, a part of the person checking out. My thoughts are of kindness and gentleness towards my slowness or awkwardness, a loving message of relaxation and non-pressure to the me that has been there, is there. The permission of unconditional love, which I would choose for myself in that situation, seems to transmit itself to the other person and help him or her find the right coin or whatever else is needed. And often this thought process creates a smile, an understanding energy between that person and myself, a richness and texture. One of the most beautiful and at the same time hardest to describe interactions is the experience of physical and emotional intimacy with another person. The physical orgasmic sensations are truly wonderful aspects of our sexuality, but the soaring inner emotional loving feelings are a beautiful part of this experience. Sex to me is now perfect love, rather than the obligatory, I can't say these bloody words, obligatory, when you're obligated, yeah? Okay. Just want to talk about sex. Rather than the obligatory function of a married man. Let's reread that part. The physical orgasmic sensations are truly wonderful aspects of our sexuality, but the soaring inner emotional loving feelings are a beautiful part of this experience. Sex to me is now perfect love, rather than the obligatory function of a married man. Making love is an expression of the inner love which we can reach when we are both balanced and fulfilled, and it is our mutual expression of that love. I have lost the desire to organise myself in strictly linear ways, and in the process my life has become richer, more fluid and flowing, and perfectly balanced. My new perspective allows me to tackle any project with a sense of inner excitement and the awareness that I do not have to prove myself or be judged by the results. I simply am who I am, doing what I choose to do, with a sense of acceptance about the outcome or lack of outcome. Interestingly, I accomplish more and acquire more, which I give away in large measure. I achieve more than I ever dreamed possible in my old linear days. My diminished motivation to achieve and acquire is particularly noticeable when it comes to competition. Okay, let's talk about competition. Earlier in my life, I was always having to beat the other guy in order to prove myself. In recent years, my inclination is away from competition. I still play tennis, but I send my opponent good wishes right in the middle of a tough match, and somehow, paradoxically, I raise my own level of play. I feel this is a natural result of radiating out from myself the feelings and thoughts of unconditional love and non-judgment. Cooperation has replaced competition in all facets of my life, and the results are amazing for myself and all the others whom I touch in one way or another. I feel strongly attracted to the message in the statement, in a world of individuals, comparison makes no sense at all. External events are irrelevant to me except to the extent they produce order or disorder in the world. I assess whatever I do. If an act produces some kind of harmony for myself and others, it is a positive act. If it creates turbulence or disorder, I will work to reverse the impact. I see my mission as helping others to shift their consciousness so that all of their waking thoughts and actions are in the direction of order and harmony. It means living as if the intelligence behind all form really matters and not doing anything that destroys or harms life. Tapping into the inner energy that is ourself with an accepting attitude contributes to a personal sense of balance and harmony. As more and more of us evolve to this personally balanced level, we will create the outer form in our world. In this way, we will all participate in the transformation of our universe. I revel in the love of life and learning of my 6 beautiful children. I teach only love, and I see them treating one another and people outside the family in the same way. My wife and I have grown to love and respect ourselves and our own uniqueness, so that we are able to radiate that inner glow outward towards each other. We have a wonderful absence of judgment and negativity towards each other because we have both learned to be that way within ourselves. Disagreements, yes. Disagreeableness, never. Disagreeableness, never. I want to emphasise that this new me is still assertive and firm about my own life. I'm not making the case for gushing sugar and honey at the evils of the world in the hope that they will disappear. On the contrary, what I am experiencing is a much deeper involvement with life, wherein I know precisely what I am about, and I cannot be deterred from that path. I am able to stay on my path, doing what I love and loving what I do, precisely because I have transformed myself from a person who had absolute judgments which required fixed and rigid responses to a person who sees and knows that any human experience is an opportunity to reflect on where I am or am not. It comes down to surrendering some old, deeply entrenched patterns. It means catching myself right in the middle of acting in a non-harmonious way and seeing that this is where I am and also where I am not right now. Then it means using my mind to be where I want to be inside of myself and slowly but surely moving more in the direction of that inner harmony. Recently, I had an experience that illustrates how this works. My wife told me that one of the children had done something wonderful in her first grade class, and she concluded by saying, "I am so glad that I worked with her on this project and taught her how to perform in front of the class without any anxiety or self-doubt." At an earlier time in my life, I would have said, "Wait a minute, I am the one who taught her that behaviour, and you want to take all of the credit? You do that all of the time." My reaction now is, "Great! I'm so happy that she is gaining confidence, and you are a great help to her in this regard." Inside, I feel I also contributed to her success, and I can appreciate my internal feeling without demanding external acknowledgement. I know that our daughter's confidence is the result of numerous inputs from both of us, from her own inner self and from many others as well. My happiness is for her. It is not based on needing some credit or on taking some credit away from my wife. Competition and turbulence inside me have been replaced by inner peace and harmony. It is unconditional love, beginning with self. When you retreat to your peaceful inner solitude, you enter that fourth dimension that opens up an entirely new world. But before you can get there, you may need to examine your resistance to this powerful new idea of self-transformation. Why you may be resisting this principle. Why would anyone choose to resist this state of being? Possibly to remain in the illusion of safety? As long as you are convinced that you are only your form, you needn't consider your own greatness and the risks that go with transformation. Think about it for a moment. All of the impediments to your success and happiness can be neatly explained away as simply the boundaries of your physical existence. In this frame of mind, you can decide that other people are just plain lucky, or they were born with advantages you did not get, or they got all the breaks. These are the thoughts of someone who remains stuck in form. To experience transformation requires opening up to the possibility of an entirely new idea. Most of us reject new ideas for the safety of those to which we have become so comfortably accustomed. It is also quite comfortable and natural to take the opposite position from that in the title of this book. That is, I'll believe it when I see it, and not a moment before. Most people do not like to go beyond their comfort zones. You may know in your heart that life resists purely physical explanations, and that science cannot conclusively answer questions such as, what is life? Where does it go when it dies? How do I think? Despite this awareness, you may prefer to stay with that which you can see, that is, with form and form alone. Perhaps believing in formlessness is just too spooky and weird for you at this time. Yet you know in your heart that you have to be much, much more than just that body you live in. It is risky in the beginning to toss all of the old comforts and take the step that will allow you to interact with your inner beingness. That is where you live, in that inner place. That is where you feel everything. That is where all of your thoughts reside. And you may not be quite ready to explore this place where you have complete responsibility for all that you are experiencing. You might also resist transformation because you are afraid of change or of examining something that you do not understand. I call this the head in the sand approach to your own spirituality. Let someone in a pulpit preach about what I am supposed to do in the spiritual realm. Me? I'll take care of paying off my mortgage. All of this mystical stuff is for deep thinkers or dedicated religious believers. We have been conditioned to believe that matters pertaining to higher consciousness are the concern primarily of organised religious leaders. Yet if you consider the teachings of highly spiritual masters, they all say the same thing in different ways. The kingdom of heaven is within. Do not ask God to do it for you, but in fact recognise your own great divinity and magnificence. Look within, not without. You may feel that an attempt to achieve personal transformation conflicts with your specific religious training, but nothing that I am writing about conflicts with the teachings of the spiritual masters. Nothing. Transformation is about love, peace, personal fulfillment, treating others with respect, and achieving harmony on this planet as one family of man. Nothing I write about is in any way to attempt to criticise or ridicule anyone's religious beliefs. While I find some of the acts that are perpetrated against human beings in the name of God or organised religion I can't say this word, anathema. I do not find fault with the essential beliefs of the religion. A transformed being is capable of behaving in non-spiritual ways towards others. A transformed being is incapable of behaving in non-spiritual way towards others. Finally, you may resist this process of transformation because you feel that you are ready. I'm really fucking... Should I swear? No. Well, it should be adults. This is kind of really good adult stuff. Thirsty. Okay, we're going to do this chapter, guys. Finally, you may resist this process of transformation because you feel that you really do not have the capacity to transcend the life that you have created for yourself. You may feel that you have in fact reached the limit of how far you can go, and you do not want the stress and anxiety that goes with soaring above the life to which you have accustomed yourself. You may not want to imagine what you can be because you are not ready to make that shift. You want to stay with the familiar and within your own zone of comfort. Most of your resistance to accepting the possibility of transformation come from being willing to carry on pretty much as you've always have. Most of your resistance to accepting the possibility of transformation come from being willing to carry on pretty much as you always have. Yet I know that you would not be reading these pages, this moment, if you are not at least curious about the possibility of soaring beyond that which you have known as your accustomed lifestyle up until now. And I can assure you that there is very little real work to do. Once you realise that you are much more than a pile of bones, muscle, organs and blood, you are on your way. Once you begin to ask who this person is that you have come to call yourself, you are on your way. Once you begin to realise that you yourself are divine just by the fact that you have a mind and a universal intelligence that backs up your form, you are already zooming ahead. The rest will happen almost automatically. Some suggestions for personal transformation. Practice thinking about yourself and others in formless ways. Take a few moments each day to evaluate yourself, not in terms of your performance in the physical world, but in terms of pure thought and feeling. Imagine yourself actually standing in back of your physical self. Watch yourself acting and interacting and feel what you are feeling. Do not criticise or judge. Simply note how your form is behaving and what it is feeling. Be an observer as your form is going through its chosen motions. Use the observer exercise with other people. Begin to notice how they destroy their potential for happiness and success because they identify exclusively with their forms. As you watch them going through their frustrating motions, know that this is not really the total human being at all, that behind each one of the people you meet every single day is a divine, invisible, thinking being. In your close relationships, meet your loved ones in a place where there can be no limits, in thoughts behind the form, and you will see the most of your differences are unimportant, that the real human being behind that form is much more than your physical eyes reveal. Vow to relate to that part. Make an effort to go beyond your own comfort zones on a regular basis. Listen to the real you inside who is encouraging you to transcend yourself, rather than the old you who said you were incapable of such a task. Ask yourself, what patterns in my life do I continuously repeat because that is where I am most comfortable? When you have an honest answer, work to begin a new approach to your thought processes. If you have not spent any time in the wilderness because the idea violates one of your comfort zones, make a commitment to do precisely that. By extending yourself to new levels, you will put transformation in your life. Make an effort to cease labelling yourself as a means of identifying who you are as a human being. Long ago, I stopped identifying myself by any professional title. When people ask me what I do, I usually reply with some silly remark like, "Pleasure is my business." Yet behind that little wisecrack is a lot. Behind that little wisecrack is a lot of truth. I do everything because I am everything. Yes, of course I write, but that is only a small portion of what I am. And essentially my writing is a means of expressing my thoughts. Yes, I do professional speaking, but again that label would only serve to restrict me. My speaking is also an expression of my humanity. Eliminating the titles and labels reduces our inclination to compartmentalise and restrict our lives. Soren Kierkegaard said, "Once you label me, you negate me." Almost all of our labels refer somehow to form and what we do with our physical bodies. When you stop identifying yourself exclusively through form, then your profession, age, race, sex, nationality, financial picture, list of accumulations, awards, handicaps, level of fitness, and any other label becomes meaningless. Discontinuing the labelling process will help you to define who you are in a more spiritual and profound terms. If you must label, try this one on. I am connected to the perfect intelligence that supports all life. It doesn't say that. I'm making this stuff up. Okay, let's use Wayne's words. If you must label, try this one on. I am connected to the perfect intelligence that supports all form, and therefore I am a part and parcel of it all. I have no limitations and no compartments. I am not going to get it all. I am it all already. Best not to have a label rather than to say that to people. Just know it. Begin to view your mind, your non-formed side, as new and miraculous. Know that your mind is capable of transcending your form and that your body is a large part controlled by your mind. Imagine yourself with a lemon in your hand. Now imagine bringing the lemon close to your mouth and biting right into it. This exercise will create a rush of saliva into your mouth as your body's reaction to the imaginary invasion of citric acid. This is transformation in action. Your mind is causing your physical self to respond. That is precisely what hypnosis is about. It is a way of directly contacting the state of mind that allows you to transcend your form, to transcend pain by refusing to register painful signals. This amazing power is always with you. Work each day to clear yourself of the two factors that do the most to inhibit your personal transformation: negativity and judgment. The more negative your thoughts, the more likely you are to look exclusively at the physical side of you and to behave in such a way as to destroy your body as well. Every negative thought is an inhibitor to personal transformation. Let's just repeat that. Every negative thought is an inhibitor to personal transformation. It keeps you clogged up, just as cholesterol clogs up the artery. When you are filled with negativity, you are kept from attaining higher and more bountiful levels of happiness. The inclination to judge others also serves as a gigantic inhibitor of your personal transformation. When you judge another person, you do not define him or her, you define yourself. Your judgment of another says nothing at all about that person. It only says that you need to judge the person in the way that you are doing. So you are saying more about yourself than about the other. When you find yourself thinking and behaving in negative or judgmental terms, remind yourself that this is an indication of both where you are at the moment and where you are not. That here may be a signal that you are identifying in some way with the judged person. What bothers us most about others quite often is something we refuse to acknowledge in ourselves, or even something we need more of. Try to be more interested in what is causing you to feel judgmental than in what is wrong with that other person. After a while, you will find yourself replacing negativity and judgment with a gentle and loving inward look at why this is hooking you. Higher consciousness or personal transformation involves putting the golden rule into practice, and when you slip, applying the same rule to yourself. You will discover that the world has not changed, but that you are now a totally different human being, a transformed human being. It is truly a great feeling to take over your own inner life. Examine how you treat the physical or visible you. As you begin the clearing process above, you will find yourself becoming more and more in balance, improving your exercise habits and nutritional intake. As negativity and judgment go, so will habits of self-abuse directed at your form. You will begin to know that the food you eat is maintaining the wondrous temple that houses your being. You will see the old self-defeating habits of form destruction disappear, and you will honour the form as a manifestation of you. It all works perfectly together when you allow it. Allow yourself time to meditate quietly by yourself. Meditation is a powerful tool, and it is as simple as breathing. You should choose your own style of meditation. Maybe it will help you if I tell you a little bit about mine. I go to a quiet place, and with eyes closed, I visualise a pastel kind of light. Any thought is pushed away by the power of the light. As I become more and more peaceful, I see a white light in the centre of the field of pastel and feel I am moving closer and closer to the white. When I finally go through that light, it is very much like going through the gate I described. I feel energised and totally in control of myself and my surroundings. Exquisite peace is the best term I can think of for this place. I feel as rested as if I had slept soundly for 8 hours. When I leave this level, I feel totally connected to all of mankind. In fact, I call this meditation my connection to all of eternity, because someplace deep inside of me, I am freed from my form completely. After meditating, I know that I can accomplish anything. Some of my most profound ideas, my very best speeches, and my most personal, satisfying writing emerge after meditating. And my appreciation for my loved ones can only be described as a peak experience. Try it. Use your own method. Miracles are waiting for you in that spectacular space. Go there. It is truly exquisite. Above all else, be kind and understanding of yourself. Be especially kind to yourself if you behave in a way that you dislike. Talk kindly to yourself. Be patient with yourself when you find it difficult to be a holy person. It takes a lot of practice, just as it took a lot of practice to develop neurotic and judgmental habits. Forgive yourself, and then, when you do not act as you want to, use your actions as a reminder of where you are and where you are not. The more you extend kindness to yourself, the more it will become your automatic response to others. By way of summary, I offer the broccoli metaphor. Imagine yourself going to your local grocery store and buying a package of frozen broccoli because you are attracted by the beautiful picture on the wrapper. When you get the broccoli home, you are still so attracted to the picture that you empty the contents into the garbage and proceed to prepare the wrapper for dinner. As you put the picture of the broccoli on your plate, you suddenly realise that you are going to be very hungry if all you have is the packaging. Your life may be just like that. You may be paying so much attention to the package that contains the real you that you toss away the most vital ingredients. Your form is the package, and while its beauty and appearance may seem all important, it primarily serves to contain all the rest of your magnificent humanity. The container cannot give you the pleasure and satisfaction and nourishment that the contents do. Even though you cannot see what is inside that beautiful package, you know that whatever it is provides you with important and irreplaceable nourishment. A lifetime of focusing exclusively on the package will result in a spiritually undernourished and quite unhappy you. That's awesome. That's chapter 1. Okay, guys, I will catch up with you soon. Take care. Much love. Bye for now.